The Minoans. The island of Crete was home to Europe's first great civilization. The Minoans, named after Minos, a legendary king of Crete, settled as early as 6000 BCE, reaching the height of their powers between 2200 BCE and 1500 BCE. Crops flourished in the rich soil, and the Minoans grew wealthy from trade with other Bronze Age towns. The Minoans built luxurious palaces in Greece, the most important of which was the Palace of Knossos. Decorating with dolphins. The Minoan palaces were decorated with frescoes made by applying paint to wet plaster. This famous dolphin fresco is from the queen's apartment at Knossos. Worshipper. This bronze figure is worshiping the gods. Crete. This map shows the sites of the main Minoan towns and palaces. It also shows the site of a large villa at Hagia Triada. Most settlements were built near the sea. Ordinary people lived in townhouses or on farms in the country. It is said that the god Zeus was raised in the Dictaean cave on the Lassithi plain. Taking the bull by the horns. Bulls were sacred to the Minoans, and bull leaping was probably a form of worship. According to myth, Zeus turned himself into a bull and swam to Crete with the princess Europa on his back. Their son, Minos, later became king of Crete. This bronze figure shows a boy somersaulting over a bull's horns. Bull mural. This mural at Knossos also shows an acrobat leaping a bull. Discovering Knossos. English archaeologist Sir Arthur Evans, 1851 to 1941, discovered the Palace of Knossos in 1894. The remains showed that the palace contained hundreds of rooms. Theseus and the Minotaur. According to legend, the Athenian prince Theseus went to Crete to kill a man-eating monster called the Minotaur. Half man and half bull, the Minotaur was kept in a maze called the Labyrinth. The long, winding corridors at Knossos may have resembled a labyrinth. Modern Minotaur. The story of the Minotaur has inspired many artists through the ages. This interpretation by Spanish artist Pablo Picasso, 1881 to 1973, is almost as difficult to unravel as the maze. Restoration. The Palace of Knossos was rebuilt several times. Made of stone with wooden ceilings, some parts of it were 4 stories high. The royal apartments included a throne room where the ruler of Knossos sat in splendor. Sir Arthur Evans restored some of the palace to its former glory. The wooden columns are painted the same shade of red as the originals. The Mycenaeans. During the Bronze Age, a warlike society developed around the Greek city of Mycenae. The Mycenaeans were great warriors and traders who lived in small kingdoms centered around heavily fortified palaces. The wealthy Mycenaean civilization reached its peak in about 1600 BCE. However, by around 1250 BCE, the Mycenaean world was under threat from foreign invaders, and by around 1200 BCE, their cities began to be abandoned or destroyed. Within 100 years, the Mycenaean strongholds had fallen, and a period called the Dark Ages had begun. Pomegranate pendant. This gold pendant was found in Cyprus, where many Mycenaean artists and traders settled as their civilization crumbled. It was made by a Mycenaean craftsman in around 1300 BCE and is decorated with tiny gold granules grouped in triangles. Bull sprinkler. This clay bull's head with small holes in its mouth was used to sprinkle water at religious ceremonies. The bull was the most common animal shape for these ritual sprinklers. Octopus jar. This pottery jar decorated with an octopus was found in a cemetery at a Mycenaean colony on the island of Rhodes. Mycenaean artists were very influenced by Minoan artists who often painted subjects inspired by the sea. Grave circle. In 1876, Heinrich Schliemann, page 12, excavated a royal burial ground at Mycenae. It contained tombs called shaft graves enclosed by a wall. The graves held vast amounts of gold jewelry that date from around 1600 BCE. Lion Gate. The main entrance through Mycenaean city walls was a huge stone gateway decorated with the sculptures of 2 lions on either side of a pillar. This may have been the symbol of Mycenaeans' royal family. Treasury of Atreus. Although it is called a treasury, this building was actually a tomb for Mycenaean kings. Its ceiling is made of 33 rows of stone that overlap to form a beehive shape. Fish cup. Mycenaean artists often worked for the king and built their workshops close to the palace. The shape of this long-stemmed cup, decorated with cuttlefish, was invented by the Mycenaeans. Mask of Agamemnon. 5 of the royal people buried in the Messenian shaft graves wore gold funeral masks. Heinrich Schliemann mistakenly believed that the death masks shown here belonged to Agamemnon, the legendary king of Mycenae during the Trojan War. It has since been dated to the earlier time. Bird women. Thousands of little beak-nosed figures shaped like women have been found at Mycenaean sites. They may represent a fertility goddess. To Troy and back. In the 12th century BCE, the powerful Mycenaean civilization collapsed and Greece entered a dark age. During the next few centuries, stories of heroic Mycenaeans were handed down in the form of poems. 2 of the most famous poems were written by the poet Homer in the 8th century BCE. The Iliad describes how the city of Troy was besieged by the army of King Agamemnon of Mycenae, and the Odyssey describes the adventures of the Greek hero Odysseus on his return from the Trojan War. It is likely that the Greeks and Trojans did go to war, but over the ownership of land and crops, rather than the recapture of Helen, above. Helen of Troy. Helen was the beautiful wife of Menelaus, king of Sparta and brother of King Agamemnon. According to legend, Helen was captured by Paris, son of Priam, king of Troy. This led to the Trojan War. Heinrich Schliemann. In 1870, German archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann, 1822-90, discovered the ancient city of Troy on the coast of modern Turkey. The excavation revealed 9 cities built on top of each other. Schliemann's wife was wearing jewelry found at the site. Overcome by curiosity. After a 10-year siege, the Greeks tricked the Trojans by leaving a huge wooden horse outside Troy. Curious, the Trojans dragged it inside their city walls. That night, Greek soldiers who were hiding inside the horse crept out and led their army into Troy. This pot showing the horse is from about 625 BCE. Modern model. In Troy today, there is a modern replica of the Trojan horse. It is very large and, like the ancient one, is made of wood. Children can climb a ladder into its stomach and pretend to be Greek soldiers. The wooden horse. Many artists have been inspired by the story of the Trojan horse. This painting is by Italian artist Giovanni Tiepolo, 1696 to 1770. The blinding of Polyphemus. One day, Odysseus met Polyphemus, a one-eyed, man-eating giant who trapped Odysseus and his men in his cave, then began to eat them one by one. Cunning Odysseus brought the giant a skin full of wine to make him fall asleep. Then he blinded Polyphemus by driving a red-hot stake into his only eye. Patient Penelope. After 10 years, Odysseus returned to his wife Penelope, who had waited patiently for him. Penelope had put off marriage proposals from other men, saying that she would reply only when she had finished her weaving. But every night she undid all her work so that her weaving was never finished. This painting by British artist John Stanhope, 1829 to 1908, shows Penelope sitting sadly beside her loom. Woolly escape. Odysseus and his men escaped by tying themselves beneath a flock of sheep that Polyphemus kept in his cave overnight. In the morning, as the sheep left the cave, the blinded giant checked their woolly backs, but he did not think of feeling under their bellies. Blue paint indicating sea. Helmet. Mother to the rescue. Achilles' mother was a sea nymph named Thetis. This terracotta figurine shows Thetis on a seahorse bringing a new helmet for Achilles to wear in battle. Some of the bright blue paint representing the sea still survives. Death of a hero. After the Greek champion Achilles had killed the bravest Trojan warrior, Hector, he tied his body to a chariot and dragged it 3 times around the walls of Troy. On this clay lamp, Achilles is shown driving the chariot and looking back in triumph. Above him, Hector's parents, King Priam and Queen Hecuba, watched in horror.